near Stockholm. Actually in between Stockholm and Uppsala, which is where I stayed for on and off for about a year. Long time ago. This is Swedish forest, which looks very different from a black forest, obviously. Now the most obvious thing is so many birch trees. I was always struck by, when I used to come to Sweden by train from Germany, which took 24 hours and included 2 ferries, one to Copenhagen from Germany and one to Sweden from Denmark. Well, they built a bridge between Sweden and Denmark, so they don't do that anymore. Look how different this is. Obviously, all forests are different. It depends on the temperatures, the amount of light, the amount of dark. Now, Stockholm is quite a lot further north than the Black Forest. In fact, the Black Forest, although it's high altitude, the latitude is about as far south as anything is in Germany. So it was a 2-hour flight from Frankfurt today. So we're about 1,000 miles north. I'll have to check up on that. So this is a forest that apparently people don't really walk through, so there aren't these wonderful German paths. But there are lots of stones, and hopefully I can do this without breaking my neck. Look at all the mushrooms. Look at the mushrooms there. Oh, they've had a lot of rain. And you can see that too, because everything is really green. But then you see these pine trees. Oh, that have gone yellow. It's the 21st of September, depending on how you count it. It's either the day of the equinox or the second day after the equinox, in which case we either have equal day and night or less day and more night. This is really nice. One thing that's really obvious flying into Sweden is how much water and how much stone and how many forests. Look at that moss even growing on a tree. It's gorgeous. That tree is not going to make it, although it's got a few little leaves up the top. So, Stockholm is of course Scandinavia. This is Viking country. Vikings loved stones. Of course they did. But not enough to keep them in Scandinavia. They spend a lot of time marauding. My children are. I discovered that my children, with their German father, share about 25% of their DNA with Swedes. Which makes sense because the Swedish army conquered what became East Germany, Magdeburg, which is where their grandfather came from. So it's very possible their grandfather had like 90% Swedish ancestors in common, DNA in common with Swedes, which is very interesting. So, looks like Sweden's getting ready for Christmas, which starts on the first day of Advent. Then they have a day where a girl puts a crown of candles on her head and walks. And that's, I'll see if I can find a video for that. When it's so cold for so long, festivals, of course, are very important. And they're important when it's not cold because people get bored. Look at these ferns. Oh, this is lovely. Yes. It's so squishy, very uneven underneath my feet. Huge parking space, parking lot in front of me. But they have saved this little forest, which is nice. We all talk about how important it is for Brazil to stop cutting down the rainforests, but we have to stop it too. I mean, this idea that someone else is to blame, that is such a 20th century idea. We are in the 21st century. We are all to blame. We are all in this together. Those birch trees, God, they're so beautiful. They're so skinny, and they look like zebras. This one's dead. Yeah. Which, of course, is what happens. Although I was always interested in how watching trees fall down in the Black Forest. Because when trees are close together, when one falls down, its neighbours hold it up. It doesn't fall to the ground until everyone falls to the ground. I like that. See how skinny it is? This gorgeous moss. And these ancient ferns that are, I believe, the ferns were around the time of the dinosaurs. So look at this whole valley of ferns here. And they've all gone yellow. It certainly is autumn, but I think all of Europe had this horrible drought this summer. So there's this war in Ukraine, which is only 1 hour time zone away. It's about 6 o'clock here in Stockholm, and it's 7 o'clock in Kiev. We're very close. Europe is tiny. Europe, China, and the United States could all easily fit in the landmass of the continent of Africa. This is something people don't understand. Oh, look at that, it's magical. Gorgeous. And there's a plane flying, because I'm never very far away from airports. I really like planes. I really hope the technology soon is available for sustainable energy planes. At the moment, you use a hell of a lot of fuel to keep a plane in the air. Just beating out gravity, just a few inches ahead of time. Oh, this is lovely. Oh, this is just lovely. I am definitely a forest person. Gosh, Swedish forest. Wow, so different from a Black Forest or a New Jersey forest. Gorgeous. Oh, look at that gold and white. Don't know why it is, but at noon, when the sun is at its highest, it's just hard to appreciate it. It's so much easier to appreciate when the sun is going down. There's less of it. And suddenly everything looks gorgeous. Maybe that's what happened to the ancients. They looked at the trees as the sun was going down and saying, you know, we've seen fires. We can do that ourselves. Let's invent fire. Well, the weather had already invented the fire, but let's figure out how we can make fire ourselves so we can have these bright lights and dying embers anytime we want. Gorgeous. Oh my. This is absolutely delightful. I first came to Sweden 32 years ago. I remember I was pregnant and I came to work with Yvonne in her lab in Uppsala. She had this wonderful technique for detecting carbonic anhydrase activity in tissue slices. And she was very focused on it. That's actually all she did. And she spent her entire career doing that. First as a technician, then as a PhD student, and then as a full professor. I tell you, focus is fabulous. And Yvonne was just fabulous. She's retired now, widowed. But her work is still beautiful. I must go look at it again, see what else she did. But she looked at slices of carbonic anhydrase activity in slices of just about everything. Livers, kidneys, hens, oviducts, cancers. Because once you have a nice technique that works, and you can apply it, and you can learn so much from it, you do it. I've never really been focused on anything, because although I was certainly interested in carbonic anhydrase, and still am, which is carbon dioxide handling by biological systems. I'm certainly interested in that to this day, but I was never as focused as Yvonne was. You can look up her work, Yvonne Ridderströle, Ridderstra with a circle on it, L-E. From the Swedish University of Agricultural Sciences in Uppsala. Look at this. Even though they're dying, they're still beautiful. They're very pretty brown. Oh yeah, I was pregnant in 1990 when I visited her for a week because we wanted to do some work together. And right after that I miscarried. And which I remember mostly because on the flight back with my 3 rambunctious sons, my youngest, who was 2, was running around. And I just was not well enough to stop him. And the steward told me that if I didn't control him, we would come to blows. I thought, I'm actually miscarrying in the plane toilet. I'm not going to tell you what my problem is. I just smiled and said, look, I'll do my best. Didn't want to panic anyone. Went straight from the airport to the hospital, which was a Catholic hospital. And they told me they couldn't do anything until I had expelled. the fetus because it was a Catholic hospital, and that would be an abortion. Luckily, there was no problem. But my God, stay away from Catholic hospitals if you're pregnant or have any reproductive issues. Simple as that. And it's a nice hospital too. They're very kind people. But their obsession over life starting at conception, like rape, is a holy act that creates a life. My God. Or incest, or whatever else, however else children get pregnant. Children who are trafficked. Look at this, this is a lot further. Yeah, a lot further than I thought. There's a lot of dead trees here. I think they're not really taking care of this forest the way it should be. If this was a German forest, there'd be a forester in here, fixing everything, cleaning everything up. Well, maybe there is a forester. They just, a lot has happened recently. I don't see any uprooted trees. So the second time I went to Sweden was in the summer 1993. For a week, and I had a plan to work the whole winter in Yvonne's lab. It really didn't work. First of all, I got pregnant again, and there wasn't really a whole lot I could do. I was waiting for some diabetic cows to look at what happened to their livers, and they couldn't find any. But that actually was interesting all by itself, because in Sweden, they really work their cows. So a cow is born, taken away from his mother, so the mother can keep providing milk. If it's male, it doesn't last long. If it's female, it's grown until she's 3, producing milk, and then eaten. That's what I was told nearly 30 years ago, so I have no idea what the situation is now. But the problem is, though, that for cows to make this enormous amount of milk, and I seem to remember 50 to 70 litres a day, they have to eat so much, and they can't keep up. So they get into a diabetic state, which is very dangerous for them. And they have to be destroyed. So we were waiting for some of these poor cows that were not going to do well. Finally we found some. I don't know what happened to them. We had a student came to Philadelphia, and she spent all her time playing, and we didn't get anything done. And of course, then I gave birth to my daughter. I just keep expecting to see fairies pop up underneath from these rocks. I'm sure they live there, plenty of them. So my new theory on Vikings is they absolutely loved being in Sweden when the weather was nice. And then the first snow, which can happen the first or second week in October, and keep on the ground until May, then they'll say, to hell with that, we're going to England where it's warm. And we're going to go rape and pillage and do whatever we're doing and turn the British into part Vikings, which is what I am. I discovered with my entirely English, Irish, Scottish, Welsh background, going back probably 500 years or more. Well, a little French too, French Huguenot. I discovered that I share about 9% of my changeable genetic makeup with Swedes. How about that? We all come from everywhere. So stop being mean. And Russia, would you bloody get the hell out of Ukraine? What are you doing there? What is this nonsense about mobilizing 300,000 poor young men? Giving them a gun or not, and a day or two of training and saying, go on, go shoot, go kill Ukrainians who you've never met, you don't know, you're not angry with. There's no reason for you. And the Ukrainians are saying, don't you dare even think about it. We will blow you out of the water any way we can, because we know that if we lose, if Russia wins, we will all be dead. So this video, and every other video I've made since February 24th, the day of infamy when Russia claimed they were ridding Ukraine of Nazis by bombing a kindergarten. That's it. Bombing a kindergarten. How could they? Russia, wake up. Russians, aren't you better than this? Wouldn't you like to come and visit Sweden? You can't at the moment. I believe you're banned from Sweden, or you're banned from a lot of the EU countries. That is a red and white toadstool over there. I saw one in the Black Forest on Sunday. Oh, it's very interesting. Let's go back and look at it. It's exactly the same. See, that's my point. We're all connected. Even the toadstools are the same. 1,000 miles from each other. This has to be the seat of a fairy king. Or rather, a boy fairy queen. I no longer acknowledge the term king. I think the only word possible is queen. And you can be a boy queen or a girl queen. And England now has a boy queen who's actually Queen Charles I. But of course no one asks me, here we are, look at this. Doesn't that look incredibly deadly? Whew, I would say. It's so beautiful though. God, it really doesn't want to get eaten, does it? It's like, no, come near me and you'll die instantly. Okay, thank you very much for watching this. Susanna J. Dodgson. September 21st, 2022, the International Day of Peace, which is a wonderful idea. And it would be even better if it was a reality. Russia, get the hell out of Ukraine. Stop killing Ukrainians and stop killing your own people. Peace for Russia. Russia, we want peace. Russians, don't let this insanity continue. peacescientists.org. Thank you so much for watching this. Comments are always very welcome. And if you have something you'd like me to video, I will show up and I don't cost anything.